and welcome to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah, delighted as always to be with you, bringing you another author interview. As we get started, I want to remind you, as I always do, to please like, follow, and subscribe on whatever platform you're either listening to or watching this episode on. Really does help the algorithm, gets the podcast out to more readers such as yourselves. You can help the podcast and the network as a whole in another way by going to gsmcpodcast.net, and if you would like, you can leave us a donation. That helps not only this podcast, but as I said, the network as a whole. It really is appreciated. Everything you do when you interact with this podcast helps get it out to more lovely readers such as yourselves. So whether that's following on social media, sharing the post with your friends, just listening or watching the episodes, it all helps. But again, if you do want to help in a financial way, you can do so by going to gsmcpodcast.net. And as always, thank you so much for all of the support you give the podcast, whatever form that support takes. How is your week going so far? A lot of snow last weekend. My mom said they got snow, not a lot, but it has been a very dry winter, so any amount helps. But in the pass, not too far from where I grew up, I think they got 5 feet this weekend. So that is a lot of snow, and snowpack in the mountains is great. But I think other places on the East Coast got hit again as well. So March snowstorms are crazy. You're just starting to see signs of spring, and you get that hopeful feeling that, it's warmth and spring and flowers are coming, and then boom, snow. But I hope that you are safe. I hope the snow is melting. I hope it is warming up. My husband's family is in Alabama, and they said it was 80 one day, and then they had a tornado warning, and then it snowed the next day. I think I got the sequence of events correct, but it snowed on. He was talking to one family member, and she said it snowed on her birthday in March. She said that it had never happened before. So yeah, I get it. My birthday's in April, and it's snowed in Montana before on my birthday, which is also crazy. But I hope you're having a good week. My week is fine, busy, lots of lessons, lots of fun interactions with students, which is always great. And had a fairly quiet weekend. In fact, can't even remember exactly what I did. I know I went for a good walk on Sunday. The weather was gorgeous on Sunday. Sunshine and just beautiful. So that walk was wonderful. I did another walk today, and I managed to make it between before it started rain. My phone showed that there was a possibility of rain, but I risked it. I managed to get home before that started. So trying to get in a little bit more exercise. And there's lots of hills where we live, so that is good. I'm walking, and I also get uphill, downhill, different elevations. But of course, what are we here to talk about? Not the weather, not my walking habits. We are here to talk about books, and I have a returning author this time, but we're a little bit different than the last time she was here, because the first 2 times she has been on the show, we have been talking about her children's books. Author Carmela Dutra is joining me today to talk about the first 2 books in her food truck mystery series. You see them next to me, A Murder Most Fowl and Hot Wings and Homicide. We do talk a little bit about both books, but trying not to give spoilers from either. So series are always a little bit tricky to talk about in terms of spoilers, but let me at least give you the description of A Murder Most Fowl, since that is the first book in the series. When their late Aunt Dolly passes away, twins Beth and Seth Lloyd inherit a chicken-themed food truck. Despite the challenges, the siblings rise to the occasion, even going as far as signing up their truck, Kluckin Good, to compete on a top cooking show and ruffle a few feathers for some good publicity. But the competition goes from heated to lethal when a contestant is found dead. With the elimination competition becoming far too literal, Beth and Seth need all the help they can get to find out if to get out of the frying pan without landing in the fire. With their loyal assistant and Beth's best friend, Riley, by their side, they'll have to follow the breadcrumbs to untangle a very twisted case before either one of them is put on the chopping block. This humorous series debut with a mouthwatering mystery will charm readers and keep them guessing right until the not-so-bitter end. So that is the description of Murder Most Fowl. You see that Hot Wings and Homicide is the second book, so there are currently 2 out. Now, if you're looking to start a new cozy mystery, you have a mystery series, you have 2 to read. These books are a lot of fun. I like the concept of the siblings, twins in this case, owning a food truck that they've inherited from their Aunt Dolly. Their friend Riley makes up this quirky trio that is, Beth is the main character. It's told from her perspective. She's the one kind of spearheading the murder solving, but Seth and Riley help as well. Seth is more of the voice of reason often. Beth is a little more impulsive. Riley is ride or die. She sometimes is the voice of reason, but she's also sometimes like, yeah, let's do this. And there's also, Carmela mentions this when she introduces the series, but there is also an emotional support chicken. And I skipped over that when she said it because I was thinking of Riley in a chicken costume, which she wears throughout these first 2 books. So she's Beth's ride or die in a chicken costume. But there's also an emotional support chicken, which seems very odd. The chicken just wanders into the food truck one day, and I wanted to say, little chicken, you have no sense of self-preservation. This was not a good choice. It was a good choice. Makes herself at home. She and Beth become fast friends, and she is the emotional support chicken. So if you are a fan of puns, buckle in, because there's a lot of chicken based puns here, poultry puns, A Murder Most Fowl. I mean, obviously, but puns throughout, which I love. I love a good pun. I love a good dad joke, and there's a lot of that. But more serious elements, of course, as well, because they are trying to solve a murder. In the first book, there are 2 murders during the course of the food truck competition, the reality show. But there's a lot of elements to really love and enjoy within this series. So I am happy to have found a new cozy mystery series. Maybe you're looking for one as well. But let's go ahead and let Carmela talk more about writing the first 2 books in this series. Again, the first 2 books are A Murder Most Fowl and Hot Wings and Homicide. The author is Carmela Dutra. Hi, Carmela. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, Sarah. So good to be back with you. I'm excited this morning. Thank you.
I'm excited as well. It's been a while since we talked, and you have shifted focus. So we'll cover that a little bit.
Yeah, big time, right?
Before we talk about that, for people who either need an introduction to you or maybe a refresher, can you just share a little bit about yourself?
My name is Carmela Dutra. I'm a Bay Area author, and Sarah and I first met when I was writing children's literature. So that was the last time I was on the Golden State Media podcast here, and we had such a fun time chatting together. But since then, I have shifted into the adult cozy mystery genre, where I focus on culinary cozies, and my particular series, The Food Truck Mysteries, is about a set of fraternal twins who run a chicken-themed food truck set in the Bay Area. And in the first book, they enter a cooking competition that turns deadly during the elimination round. And in book 2, well, unfortunately, their murder luck just keeps on coming when they're at a food festival, and my main sleuth, Beth's ex-boyfriend, shows up, and he ends up dropping dead at the festival as well. So, dun dun dun.
That's the thing about cozies. After a certain period, you're like, do I really want to hang out with this person because dead people happen near them?
I was actually talking with my agent about that with the series, and I had this idea for almost like a locker room style, and they're doing this murder mystery dinner party. She's like, I love this. She's like, but she needs to be self-aware because obviously dead bodies keep racking up around her. Is that the smartest thing for her to do? But would lightning really strike twice? Or I guess in her case, 7 times by that book. So yeah, we were actually just talking about that and how the body count keeps rising around her.
Yes. I teach English as a second language. And so there have been times when I'm talking with my students about books and I've mentioned cozy mysteries and they say, oh, what's a cozy? And then it's this strange point of having to explain, well, people die, but it's whimsical.
I've had similar conversations trying to explain it.
Yeah. So if you had to give your elevator pitch for a cozy mystery, what would you say?
Usually I ask if they're familiar with anything by Agatha Christie. She's the queen that started that for us. But I also just remind them that while yes, there is a murder that does happen most of the time in books, occasionally there won't be, but yeah, it's always almost a murder. It's more lighthearted and it's focusing on the who done it and the why done it versus the graphic.
Yeah.
So everything happens off page, and usually there's other side plots happening within the series because your amateur sleuth, I know this is a really long elevator pitch,
That's
but
okay.
your amateur sleuth has a side job, a side life, and you're exploring those themes and elements while she's trying to solve the murder.
Right. And sometimes there's a dog or a cat or
in my case, an emotional support chicken.
I was just going to say, in your case, an emotional support chicken who also happens to be a Portuguese best friend in a chicken costume.
Yeah.
All right. So we have 2 books currently in the series, A Murder Most Fowl, and oh my gosh, the chicken puns, I'm sure you can go on forever, and Hot Wings and Homicide. So the first one, we'll just start by giving, you did a little bit, but an overview of the series.
Yeah, so the series follows my fraternal twins, Beth and Seth Lloyd, and they inherited a chicken-themed food truck from their late aunt. And so the main sleuth, Beth, she runs the truck, the day-to-day operations, and her brother, Seth, is also a lawyer, a part-time lawyer. So he helps her out on the legal aspects of stuff when he's trying to keep her out of jail, which doesn't always happen. But they do work together. It's full of a lot of sibling banter, tons of chicken puns, as you noted, and I'm not even sorry for those. They're clucktastic. Thank you very much. And it's culinary, so there are recipes, and because it's a chicken themed, they're chicken hot wing or chicken wings in the book. Yeah, so she's the crazy, chaotic, kooky side, I guess, so to speak. She's always stumbling into stuff she shouldn't. And then you have her brother, who's the more sensible, pragmatic one of let the police handle this. And of course, that also doesn't happen either.
Right.
Okay. If you've watched or listened for any amount of time, you probably know that I do love alliteration. And there was a lot of good alliteration in what Carmela just said. Carmela, that's the alliteration, all C sounds, but clucktastic. First off, clucktastic. You know, I love a good word mashup as well. Clucktastic. Clucktastic culinary cozy. I had to look at my notes. It's a clucktastic culinary cozy. And then she said that Beth is crazy and chaotic. And I think there was another C word in there, and now I can't remember what it was. But she is crazy and chaotic, and I just love alliteration. So if you're looking for a clucktastic culinary cozy with a crazy and chaotic protagonist, then you should probably check this out. But we're going to take our first break of this episode. When we come back, we'll be talking more about Beth and Seth as twins and 2/3 of this crazy trio that is solving mysteries. You are tuned in to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to work, cause my boss is a jerk, and I'm not even that paid. I need a change in my life, cause I don't feel alive, and there's nothing that makes me happy. Hold my beer for a minute, I'm about to quit my job, cash in for a ticket. I'm going on a trip and I don't plan to visit. I'm gonna stay there till I feel like I'm winning, and this is just the beginning. I need a big change, help me feel like living. I need a big swing, home runs I'm hitting, and I'll never look back, moving on till I get it all. And we all got dreams, we all want things, but what you gonna do for it? How you gonna move for it? What you gonna be? And do you believe you can do anything?
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast and my conversation with author Carmela Dutra. As we get back into this second segment, I do want to remind you once again that if you want to support the podcast by leaving a donation of some kind, you can do so by going to gsmcpodcast.net. Once again, that is gsmcpodcast.net. Thank you, as always, for all of the support that you give. Before the break, Carmela was giving an overview of the series, a little bit of what to expect within this food truck mystery series. Let's go ahead and return to the conversation with Carmela.
And Beth and Seth, did you go through other rhyming combinations or?
That was an accident. I actually didn't even realize their names rhymed until I was halfway through the book. And then I realized, I'm like, okay, I'm just not going to change it. I'm just going to stick with it. Yeah, so it happened twins because my grandmother was an identical twin. And so I grew up with twins run in the family. They run in my husband's family. So that's something that's always around me. And there's just a different dynamic with twins in observing it versus just typical siblings. And my grandmother called me one day and she was complaining about her sister. I don't even remember what it was, but it was hysterical. That's all I remember. And at the end of that conversation, I was telling my husband, and we were at a chicken-themed restaurant, coincidentally, and he's like, you should write a book about them. And I'm like, yeah, but they would kill each other. And then that's how the whole idea sparked. And so their names, excuse me, were Mary and Martha. And so I wasn't really thinking for rhyming names. It just was a happy accident. And Seth wasn't even originally supposed to be a main character in the book. He was going to be just this little side person who would pop in, pop out maybe once or twice. And my agent was like, no, I really like him. I think he could balance her really well. And it would give a really fun dynamic to the series if you kept them both in the center of the murder investigations. So I followed her advice and it's worked out really well. That's one of the most positive things that readers have talked to me about at conventions, at events, how much they love that dynamic between two main characters, and being siblings just makes a fun tension in the book.
My dad's sisters were twins and they were Marlene and Darlene. So I'm always
so okay, I get why you asked.
I'm always interested in twin names and the myriad of combinations you can do. I think Seth at times is the voice of the reader because the books are told from Beth's point of view. And there are times as the reader that I am saying to Beth many of the things that Seth is saying to Beth, which is, shut up.
Yeah. In a very typical sibling fashion, right? Calling them jerk face and the way they have their like little language between each other with their eyes and stuff. Yeah. So that was also, again, following advice from my agent and my editor, and how I could use him, like you mentioned, to reflect what the reader is probably thinking at this moment and giving voice to the reader in a fun, tongue-in-cheek sort of way, because he's calling her out on stuff that the reader is likely screaming in their head.
Right. But in a fun, like, I'm your brother and I love you and I'm trying to look out for you, but you are not doing yourself any favors right now. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about Beth as the main character. What about you? What about her do you think will resonate with readers?
For myself, I really like an underdog in a story. And I do kind of feel like she starts off that way. I mean, the book, not to give any spoils, but the book one opens with her sitting in county lockup in a chicken suit. So right from the beginning, when I had that whole idea come to me, I'm like, how is this going to play out for her? Why is she in a chicken suit? And then I've heard just yesterday, I was at a author conference and I had a reader say, I was invested just from that first line because what did she do in her life to end up arrested while dressed as a chicken? But I also think about the people in my life. I think about, siblings. I'm a sister. I think about me also with my cousins, how we interact. And I knew that she would always be loyal to a fault and that she would love her family and would do anything to protect them. And also have this innate sense of justice too. Does she always go about it the right way? No, but that'll also progress over time where she'll handle things better and also not handle things better too.
She's also 24-ish when the book starts, so
almost 30. She's
almost 30.
So I really did myself a disservice there because I gave them a leap year birthday. And at the time,
right.
I thought it was,
yes.
yeah. So at the time, I thought it was great until I realized how much math I'm going to have to continue to do in the series. Because Beth is born on leap day, and her parents kept her birthday instead of waiting to change or legally changing it. And Seth is born 2 minutes later on March 1st.
Right.
So there's also the legality of she's 7 years younger than him in technicality terms, but she's the older twin by 2 minutes.
Right.
So
yeah,
it starts off where, yeah, they're almost 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get flagged on that a lot by my editor, and it's like, okay, make sure your math is tracking, because if they were born in 96, this was when the last leap year could have happened for them. Right. How are they moving forward? So I'm not sure I would recommend that to anyone if you're going to go that, unless you're willing to commit to all the math. Thankfully, I have a husband who is almost like Rain Man when it comes to math. So he can just do it immediately for me. So he checks all that.
That's good. That is handy. Yes. So Beth and Seth, but there's a third member of this intrepid gang, Riley. Let's talk a little bit about her as well.
Yeah, so I do love Riley. The inspiration for her did come from my best friend, and there are some stuff in the book that is real life, and things that have happened that she has done to me that I kind of switched the tables a little bit, and she's like, I can't believe you put that in there. I'm like, well, you stabbed me with a fork, and I told you I would get my revenge over those egg rolls. But I ended up making her background Portuguese, and that was my husband and I both had learned Portuguese for his grandmother, who was from the Azores, and when she was with dementia and regressing, she started reverting back to her original language. And I've just always loved the beauty of it, and I wanted something that was a little bit different, but I did also keep it where it's rudimentary enough that I can still be able to write it, hopefully, mostly clearly. You're the one who's living there, so you'll be able to tell me if I was quiet on the nose, or because I'm rusty. But yeah, so she's her best friend, she's her opposite, and she's her best friend who's gonna help bury a body figuratively first and ask questions later. And there's a lot of Lucy and Ethel vibes if you've ever watched the I Love Lucy show. A lot of antics, and she's always there to support her. And sometimes maybe she should tell her to, like, let's back up for a minute. Let's not go in through the closed gate and crawl across the grass army style, but she does, and it makes it fun.
Right. Yeah. So I think between the three of them, you've got definitely different personalities that work well together to solve whatever case or mystery they are involved in. Okay. So why food trucks?
Bay Area culture, where I'm at, food trucks are huge. And we have festivals here for food trucks. And I always knew that I wanted the series set in the Bay Area, but I couldn't pick just my favorite spot because I have so many favorite aspects. And I wanted to be able to explore everything. So, and this again goes back to that conversation when I first had it with my grandmother, and my husband and I started brainstorming about it. And I said then, I'm like, how can I have this setting that will allow me to logistically explore different parts of the Bay Area? And a food truck drove by. And my husband asked me, he's like, what about a food truck? Are there any mystery books about a food truck? And I said, not very many. So that ended up being the launching pad. And then, we have food festivals, we have food truck meetups, especially in the summer, weekly at certain locations. So anywhere you go, you can find a food truck at any given day of the week here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure I've ever really thought about the myriad of possibilities for food truck themed plot lines. There's a lot of possibilities there. So this series potentially could go on for a while with different scenarios of food truck mayhem. We're going to take our second break of the podcast. When we come back, we'll be talking about the first book and why specifically a reality show for that first plotline. You're tuned in to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast and my conversation with author Carmela Dutra. Before the break, we were talking about why food trucks specifically to be the setting and the focal point for this series of mysteries. I mean, obviously it's a food truck mystery series, so food trucks are a theme, but why that specific theme? Let's go ahead and return to the conversation with Carmela.
And then what made you decide to not only do food trucks, but in the first book, have a food truck themed cooking show, reality show?
I was watching Chopped and the Great Food Truck Race. And so Chopped has always been one of my favorite reality food shows. And I thought, I'm like, man, just imagine like if somebody were to steal an ingredient from another person. Because you do see that sometimes, like in how angry they get, like they're looking for their stuff and like, where is it? And then 2 tables down from them is somebody's using the parsley that they had just grabbed. I'm like, but what if that actually turned explosive? And what if somebody like reacted because somebody sabotaged them? So watch TV. It really gives you a lot of creative ideas.
Yeah. I miss the Food Network and cooking shows. I can't find them here. So I'm sad, but that was fun because it also adds that extra layer of, with the backstabbing, but like those dynamics that you get with reality shows that are not always every level of real.
And it gives a natural pressure cooker too, because you have a certain amount that is scripted, even though it's reality. And then you have just that pressure of being on the camera, wondering how viewers are going to portray you, or how they're going to view you. Because I know all of us who watch any of those shows, we have our favorites from the beginning. We start rooting for them. So it did lend itself to, just for me, a natural, easy way to have also an outside pressure element to the murder mystery plot.
Any particular research that you did for the series that stands out for you?
Security cameras. There's in book 1, because it's on a food truck setting with a reality show and cameras, but there's a lot of laws that go with security cameras and how footage is used, who's allowed to view it. And I didn't think about how much research I was going to have to do, so do not check my search history. Between that and all kinds of other stuff. In my mind, when I was writing, I was like, it's fiction. I can just make things up because it's fiction. And my agent, when she was going through my notes and giving me her feedback, she said, have you confirmed XYZ things about security camera laws in the state of California? Because if a reader picks up your book and they want to confirm, they should be able to go online and find what you wrote to be accurate on any search engine. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So I spent a lot of time researching who technically owns the security footage, who has the right to view it, if you're renting a lot versus you're the owner of a lot. So that was something that I had not anticipated. The food truck experience, that research was fun because all I had to do was go to food trucks, take pictures, and eat. So that was a lot of fun.
Yes. And do you name things with bad puns? For instance, Hoot Jackman?
That was my agent's idea. I do name stuff in real life.
I do too.
And so my agent was like, I feel like Beth would name the owl. You've got to name the owl. So then I'm like, okay, well, I've got to go with a pun because that's what I'm all about. So I came up with several ideas and my agent picked Hoot Jackman.
Yeah, it made me laugh.
Yay, that's what I go for. If I can make you laugh, if I can make you hungry, if I can make you angry, if I can make you experience any feeling, then I'm happy.
That's good. So first book takes place in the reality TV world, and the second takes place at a food truck. Well, not a food truck festival, but a festival where she takes her food trucks. So, we don't want to give too many spoilers in terms of series and everything, but what can you say about the second book?
Yeah, so book 2 follows the same core cast of characters. You've got Beth, Seth, and Riley. And that is at a food festival called Flavors of the Bay. And I based it loosely off of a real food festival that happens here called Foodie Land. Mm-hmm. And I figured that would be a great place to bring in other food trucks, to bring in other characters. And in that book, Beth's ex-boyfriend is a notorious food critic who does not have a good reputation. And of course, being exes, they do have past unresolved issues that sometimes, unfortunately, are a little public. And he is found holding or in a nearby a tumbler from their truck, and it's branded with her truck's name on it. And in addition to her arguing with him, Seth also had an altercation publicly with Brad as well. So for her, the stakes are more than just herself personally. She's also worried about her brother because he punched him.
Yeah.
And then he ends up dying later. So it doesn't look good for her brother. So she wants to make sure that it's not just clearing her reputation, but she wants to keep her brother off the chopping block as well.
Yeah. And what's your process for writing a mystery like these where you want people to follow the clues and maybe try to figure it out, but you don't want it to be so obvious that they figure it out immediately? And you're wearing a shirt that says red herring. What kind of red herrings do you put in? What's your process?
I always start with the motive. And why would somebody want to get rid of this person? What is the reason? What are the stakes? Why are they personal? What do they stand to lose, or what do they stand to gain? Once I figure out the motive, then I usually am also able to figure out which of these 3 to 5 people would fit with that motive and the victim, and then I work backwards from there. That's where I always start, which might sound a little counterproductive to start at the back of the book and work backwards. But for me, I have to make sure that all the clues that lead to the ending are there from the very beginning. And so I do try to make sure that whether it's misdirection, it's red herring, the actual clues, everything is there from the beginning, planted alongside each other for the reader to discover. And hopefully they don't figure it out immediately. But at the end, when they realize everything and they go back, they can see, oh, that was there all along. And while my books are part of a series, each one can be read as a standalone, but sometimes there are little Easter eggs that do tie them together, which sometimes you'll be able to oh, I remember that from book 1. And then you might see that clue again later.
Okay. And how many books do you envision for the series? Do you have an arc in mind?
And as long as it still feels natural and it doesn't feel forced. So right now I just sent pitches to my agent for books 3 through 7. Okay. And so we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I have invested in series that after a certain point, and that's usually like in the teens, or sometimes they just get way too much, and it feels like you're just reading the same formula over and over again. And
yeah, same. And I don't want that, because that won't be fun for me, and as a reader, that's not fun for me, and I don't want that to be the case for them either. So as long as it feels as realistic as it can be for a cozy mystery, because let's be honest, they're not always the most realistic at times. But as long as it still does feel organic, then I'll keep going.
Yeah. What was the biggest challenge or fun thing about switching from writing children's books to writing cozies for adults?
I did always want to write an adult novel, even when I was writing children's picture books. So it was pandemic that freed up all that time, and I figured this was as good a time as any to just sit down and try it. So with the picture books, especially my STEM education books, there was a lot of imaginative elements. There was a lot of creativity, and I am still able to carry that over into the adult fiction, but I'm able to have more jokes on the page for readers because I do naturally write in a humorous tone. So that's been a lot of fun for me to be able to just explore that and let my puns run free, and be able to embrace that side. Something that has been more challenging is there's a lot more detail that goes into a novel because it's so much bigger. And mine are around 80,000 words. That's a big jump going from around 1,100 words to 80,000 words. And the the plotting that I did for my picture books looked very different than what it looks like for an adult manuscript, because in picture books, the illustrations tell half, if not more, of the story, especially for young readers. So that's where I spent a lot of my focus, is making sure that the pictures could equally tell the story for young readers. And so with my adult novels, I did have to learn to plot. And thankfully, I have a very patient agent who, from the beginning, worked with me to teach me how to plot, to make sure that I was hitting these beats throughout the manuscript, especially because it is so much longer. So that did take time, and then having to revise the manuscript with her. But in the end, it was a lot of hard work that was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Really, in the future, do you think there will be studies about all of the things? That's so descriptive. Every new idea that came out of the pandemic, because people suddenly found themselves with time on their hands, and what they didn't maybe have time to do before, they thought now is the time. Just in terms of books, the amount of books that we got because authors said, well, if not now, then when? And here we have another example of that, with this food truck mystery series being something that Carmela always wanted to try, but hey, now that I have some extra time on my hands, this seems like the perfect opportunity to do that. And then the difference between, of course, writing children's books and then going to writing full-length novels for adults, and the big jump in word count and the difference in plotting, it really would be an interesting transition for anyone, I think. But we're going to go ahead and take our third break of this episode. When we come back, we'll be talking about future works, and is Carmela going to stick mainly to cozies? Is she going to shift back and forth between children's books and cozies? You are tuned in to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back. Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast and my conversation with Carmela Dutra. Before the break, we were talking about transitioning from writing picture-based children's books to writing full-length novels for adults, and some of the fun, both the fun and the fun challenges involved in that transition. Let's return to the conversation with Carmela.
Are you going to shift your focus to cozies, or are you going to continue to write the children's books as well?
Right now, it's cozies is my focus, cozy mysteries. So, maybe if another idea comes back to me, or something is there that I can't shake it, I have to write it, then I will definitely sit down and do that. But right now, it's cozy mysteries.
Yeah. And what are you working on now?
I am finishing self-edits on book 3 in my food truck series that will soon be going out to my beta readers. I've already have book 4 plotted, and I just turned in a new cozy mystery series to my agent.
Okay. Any teasers you can give about that? I know you probably don't want to talk too much about the new one, but
it's set in the Bay Area as well, so everything I write will be set in the Bay Area. So that one is if anybody is listening is familiar with the Bay Area, specifically in Fremont, it's set in the historical part of Niles, which is where the Silent Theater with Charlie Chaplin is. It was also one of the first transatlantic railroad crossings that went through. So I have a lot of historical elements in that book, but it's set in a modern day setting. So it's a mix of characters from retirees and millennials. So it's a lot of fun to write that one.
Fun. Generational clashes.
Yeah.
But
it has made for some very fun dynamics in the book.
Yep, I can imagine. Just the different way different generations think about things or look at even technology or slang or any of those kinds of things.
Yeah, and especially because in that one, it's a family business. So my sleuth is taking over a family business that has been a part of town for generations. So her and her grandfather have very different approaches,
Yes.
just even with modernizing the shop. So yeah, you hit it right on the nail there.
Yeah. What have you been reading lately?
I've recently finished the Serial Killer Guide to San Francisco and A Tour to Die For by M.M. Chouinard. So that was a lot of fun. It's a cozy, it's like cozy adjacent mystery about a true crime tour guide in San Francisco. And so I'm excited for the third one to come out in September. And I have also really been enjoying working my way through the Veronica Speedwell mystery series. And I know she has a new one that's up for pre-order. So I'm excited for that one.
Okay. And what about your boys? What have they been reading?
My oldest is 10 now, and he is we have 3 different library memberships because he just can't go through enough book, or he goes through books so fast. So he's all about the Dogman and Captain Underpants. And last year, Dave Pilkey actually came to San Jose, so I took both of the boys to go meet him. So anything that's graphic novel, my oldest is fully invested in, and my youngest is 6, who's just been starting to read independently. So he's all about the Elephant and Piggy series by Mo Williams and Dr. Seuss.
Nice. So those are fun to read together.
Yeah, they are. And then we have my oldest and I, we do have our own little, I guess, book club buddy reads that we do together of the Dinosaur Club series. So those are about like 6 chapters. They're for just like early chapter books to get them used to that. And huge dinosaur lovers in our house. So that's fun. Him and I read those together.
Just for fun, you mentioned Chopped. So if you could go on any food show, what would it be?
Me go on a food show? Oh goodness, I don't know that I would go on a food show. So the type of pressure that I work well under is deadlines. I don't know that I would work well on like a time pressure where I've got 20 minutes to create an appetizer. My oldest and youngest, they both like to watch food shows with me too. So probably if the Ben and Jerry's ever came back and they did another one, because we watched that together as a family. And my oldest was like, oh, we could totally do that, Mom. We could totally come up with creative ice cream flavors and all these different crazy ideas and use the Sunday phone to call for help. So I would go with the Ben and Jerry's just so I could do it with my kids.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I would fail spectacularly.
But those are fun. Those contestants are fun too sometimes. And it's so much easier to sit on your couch and be, oh, come on, don't do it that way.
Yeah, but when you have a clock counting down and a camera watching at your every move and you've got people running around you, you're immediately going to forget how much is a cup again? How do I do this? I know, at least I will.
Exactly. Okay, when you are writing, what's your favorite comfort food?
I don't eat too much when I'm writing. If I do, that's usually when I'm out at like a cafe and it'll be like a pastry. I always have coffee with me. That's something to drink. I can't eat and type at the same time. I'm also extremely messy, so it's just not a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then in food truck culture in the Bay Area, do you have a favorite?
Ooh, oh my goodness. There is Kona Ice, which is especially in the summer, it's shaved ice that you can get. There's also just so many. There's one, it is a chicken food truck, and it's JoJo's Hot Chicken. It's a Nashville style here in San Jose that's really good. And then there's also La Piñata, which is a taco food truck. So those are some that I've really enjoyed throughout the Bay Area. La Piñata, I think, is much more North Bay though, whereas JoJo's is here in my area of the South Bay.
Okay.
Yum, those all sound good. I just realized as I was listening to Carmela that I think I was a really bad Californian when I lived there because I don't remember going to a single food truck. I've been to a food truck, I've had food from a food truck, but I don't remember going to a food truck any of the times I lived in the Bay Area or in the Sacramento Central Valley. I'm a terrible Californian. Now I don't live there anymore, so I missed my opportunity. But we are going to take our last break of this episode. When we come back, we'll be talking about some of the recipes from the series. You are tuned in to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back. Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast and the conclusion of my conversation with author Carmela Dutra. Before the break, Carmela was talking about some of her favorite food trucks in the Bay Area. I was lamenting having not eaten at more food trucks in the Bay Area and in California in general. But let's go ahead and finish this conversation with Carmela.
This makes me realize that I did not ask you about the recipes in the books. So talk about that process.
So the chicken wings are my husband's recipes, and I promise no one has died when he's made them. I'm still here, still alive. No promises for anybody when they make them in their kitchens. So he really loves experimenting with creating different types of chicken wings, both dry rub, saucy ones. I like eating them. I don't like making chicken wings, but I do give him I give him ideas. I'm like, I want you to help me come up with something like this. And when I say I want you to help me, I'm really saying I want you to do it, and then you give me the recipe. The sides are mine. So we work really well together that way. So the mac and cheese poppers is something that I came up with after I tried them in a restaurant, and the waitress told me we just use the leftover macaroni that doesn't sell, and we repurpose it. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea at home, because sometimes reheating macaroni and cheese does not taste the same as when it's fresh made.
Yeah.
So I came up with a way to make my own poppers. And so, yeah, I have some different ideas for moving forward of making some chicken sliders, because I do have a chicken parm recipe in my crock pot that I'm going to try. And I use my friends as guinea pigs, and they all are very happy to do that. And all of them are alive still too. So that's work. And I also I open it up to suggestions from readers too. So I was recently at Left Coast Crime, a mystery convention that was in San Francisco, and I was talking with some readers, and they were giving me suggestions for vegan options as well. And I was like, okay, let's hear what are some of your options. Like, what do you think? And so they were giving me some suggestions for using cauliflower and doing like buffalo cauliflower bites in place of chicken bites. I was like, okay, that's not a bad idea. So we're going to experiment with that and come up with some different ideas there too. But each book includes 2 recipes. It's a chicken wing and a side. And I also have exclusive recipe cards that go with each book. When I have events, I mail them out to readers, and those are only for a limited time that go with that book.
Okay. Will you be doing anything with piri piri chicken since we've got the Portuguese connection?
Maybe. Let's see what my husband comes up with. So that's all for him. Like he does, like he has a whole list on his phone of different ideas, and that is something that he has talked to me about too. He's like, let's bring in some like Portuguese dishes over here, and then he's also said like, okay, what are some popular chicken dishes here? And Nashville style chicken is really popular, so coming up with some ways to do chicken wings that are like that. And I also want him to do. We really like chicken thighs. We find them to be more flavorful, and I want to do some chicken thigh strips for my kids, and I'll use them to see how, like, if my kids eat them, then I know they're going to be good because my oldest is your typical picky 10-year-old. So we'll play around with that and come up with some ideas that can go in the book that way.
Okay, but can I just suggest if someone does die, don't bring that up.
Good to know. Good to know. Yeah.
I only had that one friend who died. It was fine.
There was secretly a reason there. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So
99 out of 100 people have survived, so it's fine statistically.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's funny.
If people want to know more about the Cozy Mystery Series, website and any social media that you're active on.
Yeah, you can visit my website, carmeladutra.com, and that includes everything about where to find my series. There's also a really great bookstore locally here in the Fremont area called Banter Books, and they will ship signed copies. So there are signed copies in their bookstore, and they're linked on my website. And you can also find events because I do online events as well that anybody can join where they're at. So I know when this releases, I'll have just finished an online book club that was open to the public. There's going to be another book club hosted by a library in the Midwest that's also going to be open for anybody to join regardless of where they live. So those links will be always on my website for readers to find. And if anyone is reading this or listening to this and wants to know more about like the querying process and how I went about finding my literary agent, I have a whole blog section on there for an author's guide to querying. And I've been currently adding one for an author's guide to being on submission. So I detail my experiences if it can help other authors going through this period. Social media, my handles are the same across the board. Author Carmela. I'm very active on Instagram. I'm very active on Facebook. There's a lot of cozy mystery groups on Facebook I'm a part of. And on Facebook, it's author Carmela Dutra because I couldn't do just Carmela. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Okay. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you wanted to make sure you brought up or highlighted during our time together?
Just thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun, and thank you to your listeners for joining in to hear us. And yeah, if anybody does want to talk about querying or about publishing, they can contact me through my website. I have a contact form. I read all messages and I respond to all messages, so they can use that to reach out to me too, and I'd be happy to chat with them.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your morning and your weekend to talk to me about the series and writing and all of my crazy questions. I really appreciate it.
No, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again to Carmela for joining me again, this time though to talk about cozies. I enjoyed her children's books and loved talking to her about those children's books. Enjoyed just as much talking to her about this cozy mystery series. I love that she has found a fun and whimsical way to use her punny sense of humor. There are so many good and, bad but good puns throughout the series. So if you are a fan of puns, then definitely check this out. But if you're a fan of cozies, culinary cozies, especially cozies with just fun but quirky main characters that make you laugh, shake your head, yell at the book, what are you doing? Stop doing that. Then you should definitely check out the first two books in this series. I really enjoyed both of them. I thought they were funny. I thought they were whimsical. I thought they were fast-paced. And I liked that despite both being mystery, I mean, obviously they're not going to end the same way, but and I'm not going to tell you how either of them ends, but I liked that they had very different reasons for what happened and the events in each book, the motives for the person who is eventually who committed the murders, why their reasons were very, very different. So I liked that. Sometimes you read a series and you think, yeah, okay, that was a little too similar to the last one. It was fairly easy to figure out, but I like that they were quite different. So definitely check out this cozy mystery series by Carmela, and look forward to the one that she has coming out soon. But if you have little kids, also you might want to look into her children's books series as well. I will link the episodes before where she was on talking about her children's books. Those were before we switched to video, so you can listen to those as opposed to watching. But they're also on YouTube, so if you primarily watch the episodes on YouTube, you still can. There's just nothing to watch except for the logo, but you can still listen to those audio episodes. That was a really randomly detailed explanation. I will link those episodes in case you want to know more about her children's books. Thank you again to Carmela for joining me. And as always, thank you for joining me. I hope you'll join me for, we have back-to-back returning authors. So this next interview and next week's episode will be with returning author J.D. Sanderson. He has re-released his book, A Footstep Echo, but the series, there's two novels and some short stories in this collection. So it's a compilation of this world that he has created. This is sci-fi. He was here before to talk about A Footstep Echo back closer to when it originally came out, but now he has compiled this collection. And so if you are new to the series, you'll be able to read the whole thing at once. Maybe you read one and want to know more about the rest, or maybe you're curious as to why he has now done a compilation of the stories in this series, in this world that he has made. This is sci-fi, as I said. There is time travel, so if you are a fan of time travel, a fan of sci-fi, then check out my conversation next week with author J.D. Sanderson. I hope that you are having a really great week. I hope that the weather is doing something nice. Whatever it is that you want, I hope the weather is doing that, because it's spring and every 5 minutes it can be different. So probably all of us are having the weather we like at some point during the day. But I hope that the week is going well. And no, you don't know, because I'm not going to say it yet, because I haven't said the things that I should say at the end, which is to like, follow, and subscribe on whatever platform you're either listening to or watching the episode on. Also, leaving a nice review really, really helps. So if you want to help that algorithm, leave a review. Thank you in advance. It's greatly appreciated. You can also follow the podcast on social media: Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. Love hearing from you, so come hit me up with your questions and comments. Now, you know what I'm going to wish you. Whatever the week is throwing at you, I hope that you also find plenty of time to get lost in a good book. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you next time. Look at me sometimes.